How do you move forward when you get into clashes and power struggles with colleagues and stakeholders? This week, I want to talk again about the power of asking questions. We often get into situations when we feel unheard or want to assert our opinion, especially when managing sideways to peers or upwards to some folks more senior than us. And this can lead to a kind of power struggle that ends up being just a head-on clash of opinion against opinion. The sometimes counterintuitive approach to moving past this is not to tell more, or to emphasize more, or to try and get your opinion across more, but to ask questions. Some favorite ones are very simple. One is, on what basis are we deciding to build this? So when you've got someone who's saying, we're going to build this feature, or they've just decided this is the next thing to be creating, if you ask them on what basis are we deciding to build this, they should have some kind of data, ideally from some research, and they should be able to tell you. Now, if they can't tell you and they just go, well, it's just my opinion, well, then you're in an opinion against opinion thing, because you might say, well, in my opinion, we shouldn't. But then you can point that out. Then you can say, well, it seems to me that we are in just having opinion against opinion. How can we find some more data to move us forward? And then you might suggest doing some kind of experiments, doing some more research and so on. Or maybe that person doesn't know. That's the beauty of asking questions, because you put the responsibility back on them to make the case, rather than you having to make the case of why they're wrong. So they will either know and they'll tell you, or they won't know and they may have an aha moment where they're like, oh, actually, yeah, no, we should get some more data around that and understand that better. Another useful question is, what's the intent behind this? Whether that's a feature or a policy or a process, because people can get dogmatic about, oh, that's just the next one off the backlog, or, well, that's just policy and so we have to do it. But when you ask, well, what's the intention behind it, it's the why behind the why, classically, and it helps broaden out the problem space, and you might have a different way of approaching it. It also gets you out of that problem where people are very focused on pushing a metric that has become a target, if you know Goodhart's law. For example, we need to go from being a 2-star app to a 5-star app in the App Store. But why? Well, no, we just want to do that. But actually, if you read all the comments, it tells you exactly what you need to do. Another good question, particularly if you're collaborating with peers, is how do we make decisions? It's a funny question because it seems like, well, we just decide on stuff. But actually, if you don't have a formal process or a formal kind of governance around this, then it just becomes whoever's loudest or has the most influence in the room. And it's not really actually an intentional and informed decision-making. Lisa Welchman wrote a really good book called Managing Chaos about this. So, for example, you might say, well, when we're just opinion against opinion and we recognize that, what do we do? Go and get some more data and so on. It could be that someone says, well, when we don't really know one way or the other, and it's not tragic which the decision is, it kind of doesn't really matter who decides. Or it may be that someone says, yeah, when we're not sure and we're sort of deadlocked, I'll make the captain's call because I'm the boss. None of those is inherently wrong, but the point is that you want to be agreed and aligned on that up front. You may find as you use those questions often that you're repeating yourself a bit too much. And so you can soften this a little bit by saying, look, I know I'm always the one asking this, but what's our intent behind this? Sometimes what happens when you drip away with that same question is people start to internalize it. And so they do it in advance. For example, they might say, and because Andy always asks this, here's the intent behind this thing. And that's great. Now you're in a very different kind of conversation and relationship with those people than you were before, when it's just one of you trying to persuade the other one that you're right and they are wrong. I hope that's useful for you. If you'd like to check out my coaching practice, it is at polaine.com/coaching, and I'll put the link below. If you've got any of your own tips, please post a comment below. I love to hear them. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon.